DOLA Pro Advanced Customisations, Forefoot Valgus Extension, EVA Edition. A Forefoot Valgus Extension is a wedge-shaped EVA addition placed on the dorsal or plantar surface of the orthotic shell at the forefoot. It is placed with the thicker side of the wedge at the lateral side of the foot, creating a valgus or lateral wedge. The DOLA EVA forefoot wedge or wedge strip are self-adhesive with 3M backing tape. The additions can be left as standard size and shape or customised for length, width and angle. Customisation of the wedge size is based on foot morphology, shoe and orthotic characteristics. Forefoot valgus extension positioning. It is most commonly placed on either the dorsal or plantar surface of the orthotic shell extending from the midfoot. It extends under metatarsals 2 to 5. It is placed with the thicker side of the wedge at the lateral side of the foot, tapering to thin at the medial side. Treatment-directed testing. Treatment-directed testing of the forefoot valgus extension can be performed by placing the wedge on the patient's shoe insole or on the orthotic. From there you can assess the clinical effect, patient tolerance and comfort. Note: use Hyperfix or strapping tape or place under the shoe insole to allow for adjustment during treatment-directed testing. DOLA Pro clinical markings. The DOLA Pro full-length orthotic has clinical markings to aid in the positioning of a forefoot valgus extension. If you prefer customised positioning, this can be achieved by marking the location of some key anatomical landmarks on the patient's foot. Common markings or anatomical landmarks may include the posterior start point at the midpoint, calc-cuboid, styloid or metatarsal shafts, and the anterior endpoint at the sulcus, and the medial point at ID 1-2. Use a pen or lipstick to mark the location for the forefoot valgus extension on the plantar surface of the patient's foot in a non-weight bearing position. To transpose the mark onto the DOLA Pro orthotic, position the patient on the orthotic in a weight-bearing position and apply body weight. The marks will now be transposed onto the orthotic shell, giving a guide for the position of the forefoot valgus extension addition. Forefoot valgus extension plantar addition. Place the forefoot wedge on the plantar surface with the wedge thicker laterally. The addition runs from the midfoot under metatarsals 2 to 5. Trim the side with scissors or finish with a grinder. An orthotic with a flat, stable plantar surface allows the addition of a forefoot valgus extension without the need for reinforcement. Forefoot valgus extension dorsal addition. Place the forefoot wedge on the dorsal surface with the wedge thicker laterally. The addition runs from the midfoot under metatarsals 2 to 5. Trim the sides with scissors or finish with a grinder. Forefoot valgus extension orthotic prescription. The modification of an orthotic shell with an addition of a forefoot valgus extension is used to influence foot function and reduce symptoms of pathologies. It can be used to increase the lateral orthotic reaction force, apply a pronatory moment, address tissue stress pathologies related to foot posture and biomechanics. These can include lateral ankle instability and perineal pathologies, plantar fasciitis or various forefoot pathologies. It can be used to support a rigid forefoot valgus or improve propulsion and promote a high gear toe-off. Treatment-directed testing is advised. It uses the material properties of EVA, shape of the pad, and position applied to influence function. Alternative options to assist with the windlass or propulsion include a cluffy wedge and forefoot extension with a first met cutout. Forefoot valgus extension. Case examples. In this case example, a DOLA forefoot EVA wedge was placed on the plantar surface of a full-length DOLA Pro orthotic at the forefoot. The wedge was placed with the thicker side at the lateral forefoot, creating a lateral or valgus wedge. The clinical markings on the DOLA Pro full-length orthotic were used as a guide. The addition runs from the calc-cuboid region to the sulcus of metatarsals 2 to 5. In this case example, a DOLA EVA wedge strip was used to create a 3-degree dorsal forefoot valgus extension on a size extra small full-length DOLA Pro Orthotic. The wedge was placed with a thicker side at the lateral forefoot, creating a lateral or valgus wedge, and runs from the cuboid to the full length of the orthotic shell under metatarsals 2 to 5. The prescription was completed with a pour-on arch pad, pour-on full length, and black EVA top cover. This prescription was used for a child with low motor tone and lateral instability in a flexible cavus foot. In this case example, an alternative prescription variable to a forefoot valgus extension was used. A forefoot extension with a cutout to the first was constructed from pour-on and placed on the dorsal surface of the DOLA Pro full-length orthotic. This modification is commonly used to improve the windlass and propulsion, for functional hallux limitus, and other forefoot presentations, including a rigid plantar flex first or sesamoiditis. An alternative option to this is a first metatarsal cutout. However, the extension with a cutout allows easy adjustments based on clinical results. In this case example, an alternative prescription to a forefoot valgus extension was used. A first metatarsal cutout was performed on the DOLA Pro full-length orthotic. See the how-to video and section on this modification in this course. In this case example, an alternative prescription variable to a forefoot valgus extension was also used. A cluffy wedge was constructed from the DOLA EVA wedge strip and placed on the dorsal surface of the DOLA Pro full-length orthotic. This modification is used to address a delay in windlass activation. The wedge extends along the hallux, with the thick end of the wedge at the distal hallux at an angle as prescribed. The prescription was completed with a pour-on arch pad and black EVA top cover. Forefoot valgus extension addition in clinic. The following video will show you how easy it is to add a forefoot valgus extension addition in clinic to your orthotics.